The major value in life is not what you get, it's what you become. Most people spend their days chasing after things, thinking that once they finally get the car, the house, or the $1 million, then life will somehow be complete. But here's the truth. The car will rust, the house will age, and even $1 million can vanish if it falls into the wrong hands. The real treasure is not the possession, it's the transformation that takes place in the process of earning it. Becoming a millionaire, for example, isn't about the million, it's about the discipline, the vision, the habits, and the strength of character you had to develop in order to get there. That's what's truly valuable. When I was a young man, broke and frustrated, I thought money was the answer. I imagined that if someone could just hand me a fortune, all my problems would disappear. But I quickly realized that even if I had been given a fortune back then, I would have lost it just as fast as it came. Why? Because I hadn't yet become the kind of person who could sustain it. Wealth is like a magnet. It doesn't just come to those who want it, it comes to those who are prepared for it. And preparation is about becoming more, not just getting more. I remember my mentor once saying to me, if you want to have more, you have to become more. That hit me hard. At first, I thought success was about chance or luck, or maybe about being born into the right family. But then I discovered it was about me. If I wanted my circumstances to change, I had to change. If I wanted more income, I had to increase my value. If I wanted better opportunities, I had to become the kind of person who could recognize them and seize them. Think about it this way. If someone hands you $1 million, the best thing to do is quickly become a millionaire in your mind, in your habits, in your daily disciplines. Otherwise, you won't keep the money. That's why so many people who win the lottery end up broke. They got the prize, but skipped the process. They got the money, but never became the person. And the money slips away because the foundation isn't there. The great value of pursuing wealth, success, or achievement is not the accumulation itself, it's the growth. It's the patience you develop while saving. It's the discipline you form while studying. It's the vision you sharpen while setting goals. Those qualities will stay with you long after the cars have been driven and the houses lived in. Money can come and go, but who you become is yours forever. So when you set your sights on bigger goals, remember this. Don't just ask, what will I get? Ask, who will I become in the process? Because that's where the real value lies. Every dollar is a seed, and if you treat it that way, your entire relationship with money changes. Most people earn and spend as if money were simply fuel for today's needs. But the wealthy see money differently. They see each dollar as a little worker, a potential seed that, if planted in the right soil, will grow into a tree that produces fruit season after season. The tragedy is that too many people eat the seed instead of planting it. They consume it immediately on things that lose value, on impulses, on fleeting comforts, and then wonder why the harvest never comes. I had to learn this lesson the hard way. In my early years, every paycheck slipped through my hands. Rent, food, entertainment. It was all gone before I could even think about saving. Then one day my mentor sat me down and said, "Don't see that dollar as something to spend. See it as a seed. If you plant it wisely, it will come back multiplied." That changed everything for me. Instead of asking, "What can I buy with this?" I started asking, "Where can I plant this so it grows?" That simple shift in mindset was the beginning of wealth. Think about it. If you earn $1 and spend it, the story ends there. But if you earn $1 and invest it, that dollar begins a new story, one where it grows into 2, then 5, then 10. Maybe you invested in a business idea, maybe in stocks, maybe in real estate, or maybe in yourself through books and courses. In every case, that dollar is no longer idle, it's working for you. And here's the key. When your money starts working while you sleep, you begin the process of breaking free from the endless cycle of trading time for money. Because let me tell you, if you only earn when you work, you'll always be trapped. There are only so many hours in a day, and no matter how strong or skilled you are, you cannot outwork time. But if you build systems, if you create assets, if you plant seeds, then the harvest keeps coming whether you're awake or asleep. That's why wealthy people get wealthier, not because they're luckier, but because they've learned to make their money serve them instead of the other way around. The discipline is simple. Earn, invest, multiply, repeat. Even if it's just a small percentage at first, plant it faithfully. Over time, those seeds will turn into an orchard. And one day, you'll wake up realizing you no longer work for every dollar. Your dollars are out there working for you. That's the secret to building not just income, but wealth that lasts. You can't out-earn poor thinking. I know people who believe that if they could just make a little more money, all their problems would vanish. They imagine that a bigger paycheck will cure financial stress. But it doesn't work that way. If your thinking is small, no amount of income will ever be enough. A $100,000 income placed in the hands of a $10 mindset will eventually disappear. Why? Because the mind controls the money, not the other way around. If you want to change your financial reality, the first thing you must change is your philosophy. When I was broke, I used to blame everything except myself. The company didn't pay enough. The economy was unfair. Opportunities seemed scarce. I thought my life would change if only the numbers in my paycheck increased. Then I met my mentor, and he told me something I'll never forget. If you want to have more, you must first become more. Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. That shifted everything for me. It made me realize that wealth doesn't start in the bank account, it starts in the mind. Consider this. Two people could earn the exact same income, let's say $5,000 a month. One ends the year with savings, investments, and a sense of progress. The other ends the year deeper in debt and filled with anxiety. The difference isn't in the income, it's in the philosophy, the mindset, the daily decisions. One person sees money as a tool to multiply. The other sees it as fuel for consumption. One has trained their thinking to align with growth. The other hasn't. That's why some people win the lottery and lose it all within a few years. They gained sudden wealth without first developing the mindset required to sustain it. They skipped the growth and only received the dollars. And without the right thinking, the money couldn't stay. On the other hand, I've seen people of modest means steadily grow into financial freedom because they shifted their mindset. They studied, they planned, they disciplined themselves, and as their thinking expanded, so did their results. So here's the principle. Money will always rise or fall to match the level of your philosophy. If you think small, your results will stay small, no matter the income. But if you think abundantly, strategically, and responsibly, then even modest beginnings can grow into extraordinary outcomes. Don't chase the paycheck while neglecting your mindset. Build the philosophy that can sustain and multiply wealth. Fix the thinking, and the money will follow. That's how true prosperity begins. Profits are better than wages. Now, there's nothing wrong with wages. Wages are honorable, and they will provide you with a living. They'll put food on the table, clothes on your back, and a roof over your head. But if all you ever depend on are wages, you'll always be trading your time for money. And the moment you stop working, the income stops too. That's the trap so many people fall into. They rely only on what comes in through hours worked, never realizing that the real freedom begins when you build profits. I learned this lesson the hard way. For years, I worked diligently, showing up every day, putting in long hours, but my financial life barely moved forward. My mentor pointed out something profound. He said, "Wages will feed you, but profits will free you." At first, I didn't understand what he meant. Then he explained, wages are limited by the hours you can work, but profits have no such ceiling. Profits can grow while you sleep. They can multiply through systems, and they can continue long after your effort of the moment is over. Think of a small side hustle. Maybe you bake and sell bread. Maybe you sell a product. Maybe you offer a service online. At first, the profits are tiny, just a few extra dollars. But here's the secret. Those few dollars don't represent just money. They represent independence. They prove that you can create income without asking for permission, without waiting for a raise, and without being capped by someone else's decision. That's powerful. I remember the first time I earned a small profit from something outside my paycheck. It wasn't much, but it lit a fire inside me. I realized I had just broken the dependency on wages alone. That tiny stream of profit gave me confidence to expand, to try new things, to invest my time in creating value that could multiply. And over time, those profits grew into something that gave me choices my wages never could. Here's the truth. Wealth isn't built by trading time for money. It's built by creating value that works for you when you're not working. That's why profits matter. They come from ownership, owning a business, owning assets, owning investments. They are not dependent on your physical presence every hour of the day. So keep working at your job, do it with excellence, but don't stop there. Use your spare time to build something of your own. Plant seeds that can grow into profits. Wages will provide your living, but profits will create your freedom. Success leaves clues. That means if someone else has built wealth, created freedom, or achieved greatness, they didn't do it by accident. They followed certain principles. And the good news is, those principles are available to anyone willing to study them. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You simply need to find the patterns of success and align yourself with them. When I was a young man, I was broke, behind on my bills, and full of excuses. Then I met a man who completely changed the course of my life. He wasn't flashy, but he had something I wanted. He had freedom. He had choices. He had peace of mind. And when I asked him how he did it, he didn't tell me about luck or connections or being born wealthy. He told me about disciplines, philosophies, and principles that he had learned and applied consistently. That was my first lesson. Success leaves a trail, and if I was willing to follow, I could arrive at a similar destination. I became a student, not just of him, but of anyone who had created the results I wanted. I read their books, listened to their stories, watched their habits. I noticed the wealthy didn't waste their mornings. They got up early, they planned their days, they invested in themselves before they invested in anything else. I noticed they didn't just talk about people or things. They talked about ideas, strategies, visions for the future. That observation alone shifted how I spent my time and who I spent it with. Think about it. If you wanted to become a doctor, you'd study medicine. If you wanted to be a pilot, you'd study aviation. Yet when it comes to wealth, many people never study at all. They hope, they guess, they drift. But wealth isn't a mystery, it's a discipline. If others have done it, you can too, but only if you're willing to trace the steps they took. I remember picking up biographies of great entrepreneurs and leaders. Page after page, I discovered they weren't smarter than the rest of us, they weren't luckier, but they were consistent in applying principles. They saved when others spent. They invested when others procrastinated. They took risk when others clung to comfort. And they treated failure not as the end, but as tuition for learning. So the key is simple. Don't walk through life with your eyes closed, thinking you have to figure everything out on your own. The road to wealth has been traveled many times before. The footprints are there. The question is whether you'll humble yourself enough to study them and disciplined enough to follow. Success leaves clues, and if you gather enough of them, you can't help but arrive at success yourself. The few who do are the envy of the many who watch. That has been true in every era, every society, every business, and every household. Most people talk, very few act. Most people dream, very few build. Most people intend, but very few follow through. And that is why the rewards are not equally distributed. Life doesn't pay for intentions, it pays for action. When I was a young man, I stood among the crowd that only watched. I had dreams, I had wishes, I had hopes, but not much discipline. I admired those who had more, but I didn't yet understand why they had it. I thought maybe it was luck, or connections, or something beyond my reach. Then I discovered something simple but profound. Those who had more weren't necessarily smarter, they weren't necessarily stronger, but they were consistent. They did the things most people refuse to do. They read the books, they attended the seminars, they practiced the disciplines, they made the sacrifices. And because of that, they became the few, and the few always stand out from the many. I remember my mentor telling me, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better." That line struck me like lightning. From then on, I decided I would no longer sit in the bleachers watching others play the game of life. I wanted to be on the field. I wanted to be the one who acted when others hesitated, who invested when others consumed, who read when others wasted time, who saved when others spent carelessly. That decision, though small at the time, put me in the category of the few. The truth is, most people won't do it. Most people won't discipline themselves to save a portion of every paycheck. Most people won't invest in financial education. Most people won't delay gratification for long-term reward. Most people won't take a risk on a side hustle or a business. And because they won't, the few who do become extraordinary by default. They aren't perfect, but they're willing. They aren't flawless, but they're consistent. And consistency over time creates results that others can't help but notice. One of the greatest advantages you can ever have is simply deciding to do what most won't. Read the book when others watch TV, save when others spend, invest when others complain. There's nothing left. Study success when others gossip, and one day you'll wake up to discover that the gap between you and the many has widened so much that you've become the example, the standard, the one others admire and envy. So remember, you don't have to be extraordinary to join the few. You only have to be willing to do the ordinary things consistently that most people neglect. And if you do, you'll find yourself living a life most only dream about while they stand on the sidelines watching. Wealth is built daily, not in a day. That's a truth many overlook, because we live in a world that celebrates the big wins, the sudden breakthroughs, the overnight successes. But here's the reality: there are no true overnight successes. What looks sudden is simply the harvest of seeds planted quietly, faithfully, over a long period of time. Wealth, like a tree, grows from consistent watering, consistent sunlight, and consistent care, not from one sudden act of effort. When I was starting out, I thought I needed one big break to change everything. Maybe a lucky investment, a sudden promotion, or some miracle that would shift my fortunes overnight. But the big break never came. What came instead were small opportunities, tiny chances to improve myself, to save a few dollars, to read a few pages, to try a new venture. At first, it seemed insignificant. What difference could saving $5 make? What difference could reading 10 pages make? But over time, those small steps began to stack, and the compound effect became undeniable. I learned to discipline myself daily. Save a little, not just once, but every week. Invest not when it was convenient, but as a regular practice. Read something every day, not just when I felt like it. Write down my goals every morning, not just once at the start of the year. And what happened? Slowly but surely, my life changed direction. My finances grew. My mindset expanded. My confidence deepened, not because of one extraordinary event, but because of ordinary disciplines done consistently. Think of it this way. If you eat one unhealthy meal, it won't ruin you. If you eat one healthy meal, it won't transform you either. But repeat either habit daily, and in 5 years, you'll be unrecognizable. Wealth works the same way. Spending recklessly once may not destroy you, but doing it daily will. Saving once may not free you, but saving consistently will. It's the small habits that carve the big results. Most people underestimate what they can do in 5 years, and they overestimate what they can do in 1 day. They chase the shortcut, the quick win, the lottery ticket. But the real secret is found in dailiness. You don't need to build Rome in a day. You just need to lay one brick with care, and then another tomorrow, and another the day after. The wealthy understand this principle deeply. They don't get distracted by the need for instant results. They focus on creating systems and disciplines that will work quietly in the background, compounding day after day, year after year. That's why their results look extraordinary later, because they practice the ordinary faithfully, long enough. So don't ask for the quick win. Ask yourself instead, what small disciplines am I willing to repeat daily? Because wealth isn't built in a day, but it is always built daily. Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. And there's a world of difference between those two. I have nothing against formal education. It teaches discipline, structure, and it opens doors. But here's the truth. A classroom may prepare you to earn a wage, yet it rarely prepares you to build wealth. Wealth requires another kind of education, the kind you pursue on your own, after the bell rings, after the degree is handed out, after the job begins. When I was a young man, I went through the same system most people do. I learned to read, to write, to add numbers, all valuable skills. But what no one taught me was how money really works. No one explained the power of compounding, or the importance of saving first and spending later, or how to make profits instead of relying solely on wages. Those lessons weren't part of the curriculum. I had to seek them out. And it wasn't until I picked up books outside the classroom, listened to recordings of great teachers, and studied the lives of successful people that my perspective began to shift.